Special thanks to our platinum sponsor, Alpine Air.
Hello, television family. We are back. It is the 19th day of December, 2023. It's a Tuesday. I'm Dan Kuntz. This is Wake Up Wenatchee Valley. Kind of a light rain snow mix coming down here in the valley. It is 33 degrees. The snow is not sticking to the roadway, but it's kind of glucky out there, all things considered. Don't get your hopes up for a white Christmas. We've been talking about this for about 3 or 4 days. It's not going to happen. You're going to have to go into the Cascades if you really want a white Christmas. It's not what the weather is. It's what's inside that counts. Boy, that was sappy, wasn't it? Forecast details are coming up. It's just going to be kind of continuous gray, cloudy. It is what it is. And the news, busy day in the bullpen yesterday. Seahawks, who'd have thunk it? Probably the most significant touchdown drive of the year. Seahawks snapped their losing streak, beat the Eagles Monday Night Football. We'll have Pete Carroll's reaction, Andrew Locke's reaction. And in the back half of the program, our own Jefferson Robbins had a chance to sit down with State Senator Brad Hawkins, who represents the 12th District in Olympia. They have a short 60-day session that begins on January 8th. They tweaked the budget a little bit. We'll hear from Senator Hawkins in his interview with Jefferson on the back half of the program. I don't know what we have. Camera-wise, I think we've got the same problem we had yesterday. Can't say anything. It's just too gray. It's too dark. And there's just, this is the shortest days of the year. We don't really have anything to show for you. Sorry about that. We're down to just 8 hours and 27 minutes of daylight. Of course, on Thursday evening at 7:27 specifically is the winter solstice. Then each day gets gradually longer. But we don't have any, sorry, no cameras. It's just what it is. There's nothing to see. Technical difficulties, please stand by. But we do have this slide to show for you. Grant showed you this yesterday in the evening news. They updated it after the news was over, and they're going to have some freezing rain. They think may be a situation on both I-90 and on Stevens Pass. There's some fairly mild air coming up from the southwest, and it's going to go over the top of the cold air trapped near the surface, so it's going to fall as rain and then possibly freeze before it hits the ground on Stevens and I-90 at the summit. So we're a little concerned about that. Right now, it's okay, but that could change rather rapidly. As you can see in the Wenatchee Valley, we have that little sliver where we're not really expecting any kind of snow accumulation. In fact, our high today will be well above freezing. The snow level is going to go up to about 2,300 feet. We're cooled down a little bit, then we warm back up, then we cool back down again. Now I'm confused. From the National Weather Service, let me give you this in detail. So rain, we have a rain-snow mix right now. It's kind of light, very light snow. It's more of a rain than snow, but there is some snowflakes out there. It's going to switch over to rain as the snow level goes up and the warmer air comes in. We'll get up to 38 degrees. We hit 37 on Monday. Cloudy tonight, 33 for the overnight low. Going to see some sunshine after the fog burns away and the clouds. We'll call it partly sunny tomorrow and a high of 41. For Thursday, patchy fog, clouds return, just about 40 for the afternoon high on Thursday. Into Christmas weekend we go. Friday, cloudy and rainy and a high of 41. Lots of sunshine on Saturday and Sunday, Christmas Eve, but we are going to cool down, and then maybe, just maybe, a snowflake on Monday. Christmas Day, the snow level is going to be at 1,000 feet. Question is, how unstable will the atmosphere be? There's an outside chance could get a stray snowflake on Christmas Day, Monday. At your forecast, the news is next. You're watching a Tuesday edition of Wake Up Wenatchee Valley on the NCW Live channel.
Introducing Alpine Airman. Because every home needs a superhero to eliminate poor indoor air quality, send inefficient operating equipment packing, and cut high energy bills down to size. For heating or cooling and equipment replacement, turn to the experts and the superheroes at Carrier and Alpine Air. We offer the best deals on high-efficiency Carrier products, along with friendly, knowledgeable service and incredible savings to fit your budget.
Are you hungry enough to eat the end out of a rhinoceros? I know how you feel. Come on out to Blueberry Hills. You'll have a great time. We've got excellent food, a feet on the furniture kind of experience, and we won't hustle you out of your table. If you want a real farm experience, make the trek to Manson to Blueberry Hills, where you sit, you pick, you eat, and you visit. So come on out and see what all the fuss is about. Blueberry Hills in Manson. It's where the world is coming to.
A mixture of rain and snow, 33 degrees. It'll be all rain by the time we get to the afternoon. Highs will be in the upper 30s, pretty cloudy and sun back and forth, and fairly dry into the weekend, but the temperatures are going to be above normal by quite a bit. It's 5 minutes after the hour. The investigation continues this morning of that pursuit and gunfire incident that began Sunday night. The incident left a man wounded and sparked a use of force investigation. Douglas County Undersheriff Tyler Kale said the case began with a report to his agency of a man sending text messages that involved threats to harm himself. Well, they located the subject of just off of Chester Kim Road in Old Station at about 10 o'clock on Sunday night. They did that by tracking his smartphone. The man was in a vehicle armed with a firearm, according to Kale, and had allegedly rammed the front of the Bud Link Veterans Affairs outpatient clinic with his vehicle and fired shots into the building. At about 11 o'clock on Sunday night, the man drove away from the VA, crossed the Otabashian Bridge into Douglas County, onto Eastmont Avenue, and that's where multiple police agencies stopped his vehicle where Eastmont meets Fancher Field Road. Kale said the man exited his vehicle while still armed with a gun, and at about 11:15 on Sunday night, law enforcement officers fired at least 2 shots and wounded the suspect. He was taken to Confluence Health Hospital in Wenatchee and then transferred to Harborview Medical Center in Seattle. Wenatchee police said the incident is under review by the NCW Special Investigation Unit. They probe cases involving officer-involved shootings. The SIU did not directly respond yesterday to requests from our newsroom for comment. The status of the suspect, by the way, unknown this morning. A Wenatchee man is in custody while police investigate a stabbing attack that allegedly occurred on Saturday evening at Pennsylvania Park in Wenatchee. Police arrested 23-year-old Zachary Justin Craig early Saturday as their key suspect. They say the victim called 911 at about 8:45 on Friday night to say he'd been stabbed in the Pennsylvania Park playground. He was hospitalized at Confluence Health. Investigators say surveillance footage shows part of the attack. The incident may have stemmed from drug issues or jealousy over a woman acquaintance, or perhaps both. Police are seeking a charge against Craig of first-degree assault. And the former superintendent of the Moses Lake School District has now repaid all of the purchases that he improperly made with a school district issue credit card. Josh Meek resigned his position as head of Moses Lake Schools in August of 2021 after 4 years at the job. Among other issues, the school board questioned his use of a district credit card with an estimated $2,500 worth of purchases, which did not include appropriate receipts. Meek reimbursed that amount at the time of his resignation. A subsequent report from the state auditor's office found an additional $444 worth of improper purchases. Meek repaid that added amount in October. The auditor says the district did not follow its own policy for the handling of credit card accounts, and that contributed to the losses. That's the news. At 8 minutes after the hour, it'll be another busy day in the newsroom, and we'll have the news for you at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and 10 o'clock right here on this very TV station, 5, 6, and 10. That doesn't work for you, it'll be up and running on our YouTube page, our home page, our app, and our Facebook page right around 5 o'clock, so you can consume the news any way you want to do it. And if you have a news tip, send us an email, news@ncwlife.com. One of the most exciting Seahawk victories in quite some time last night. We'll talk about it with sports. It's next. You're watching Wake Up Wenatchee Valley on the NCW Life channel.
In today's environment, risk management assessment is a crucial process for your business. Risk assessment will identify, evaluate, and mitigate hazards. Don't let risk impact your business income, reputation, operations, and your overall success. We can give you peace of mind by transferring your business risks to the insurance providers. Call Stacy at August Edge Insurance today to schedule a risk management assessment for your business.
Well, Seahawks still alive for a berth in the playoffs. A come-from-behind last-second victory over the Eagles in Monday Night Football. Drew Lock hit Jackson Smith and Njigba on a 29-yard touchdown pass with 28 seconds remaining. Seattle wins 20-17. Julian Love made his second interception in the closing seconds. That secured the win. Coach Pete Carroll very happy after his team won a must-win game.
What a beautiful night for a Monday Night Football game, and to make it that dramatic and all. That was an incredible football game. One nobody will forget that game. It was an interesting game in that early on we didn't get going well, and we stumbled around a couple penalties and things like that. We just lost our drives, and defense gave up an easy drive kind of in the first one, but then we just hung in there and just kept hanging and hanging. And it really was the theme of the night, that we just kept playing and knowing that if we just keep hanging in there, something good could happen, and we stuck with it. And sure enough, the plays just started happening. By the time the game was over, it took all night to get it done. Drew played a fantastic football game for us and did a beautiful job. DK came through in the last drive and then other times in the game, and just tough plays, really difficult plays. He made them that other guys might not make. And then the throw and catch to Jackson. I haven't seen the good looks of it yet, but I do know from what everybody's comments were, that's the guy that's going to make that play. He's going to make that catch. He's just that good. And for him to have that opportunity, for Drew to put the ball on him, for Shane to call it, guys protect all of that. There's so many gorgeous things that happened there football-wise that gave us a chance to get ahead there at the end. And then the defense finished the game. They finished the game and came through. Julian Love's game was, you tag it on to what he did last week, and then this week, incredible game, incredible plays. The last catch is exquisite on the sidelines. Toes tapping, hang on to the football, in the game, win the game, a walk-off interception all but.
Drew Lock, 22 of 33, 208 yards, and of course the game-winning 92-yard touchdown drive. He said during that touchdown drive, it was all instinct, no thinking.
I think the thing that, you always try to get to as a competitor is when you're out there on the big stage, the big moment, the 2-minute drive to go win the game, you're just not thinking. You're just reacting. You're using all the training, all the instincts that you've gained from when I was in 3rd grade, started playing football till right now, all the reps that we have in 2-minute drives in the indoor, where I'm going against the one defense on Wednesdays and Thursdays. So really, what was I thinking? I wasn't. I was just flowing, making decisions with the ball, and guys were going up and getting it. Guys were going up and making plays. Jax, DK, Tyler, everybody all day, the tight ends, and not to mention our O-line and our backs tonight. That being able to run the ball like we did against that front and that defense is special, to say the least. Seahawks rushed for 100 yards. Kenneth Walker III had 86 all by himself. Next up, they travel to Nashville. They'll take on the Titans at 10 a.m. on Sunday. Seattle Kraken earned a point, but they lost in overtime in Dallas last night. Stars jumped out to a 2-0 lead before Seattle got on the board. Tomas Tutter scoring his first goal as a Kraken.
A steal by Matty Beniers with Tatar. A shot kicked out, the rebound, scores! It's tuna time! Tomas Tatar has his first as a Seattle Kraken. Tatar under pressure, gets it out, good play. Hakanpää broken up by Everly. Beniers is out in front, there he is! He scores! That's hockey, baby! Matty Beniers. An outstanding finish and a beautiful pass by Jordan Everly. 27 seconds left. Bjorkstrand a shot off the bar. Loose, available. Tolvanen scores! Hey, what do you say? Ellie Tolvanen out in front, picks up the loose change. Seattle has tied it. Each team has secured 1 point in the standings. The rematch of round 2 of the Stanley Cup playoffs. This one will go to overtime. Beniers in the zone, has room, a shot off the goal post, and it comes out to center. Creeps in on Evans, settled by Harley. Duchesne in tight, stick handles. They score! On the back door, Thomas Harley.
But they did get a point. Next up for the Kraken, they'll be in L.A. to take on the Kings. That'll be tomorrow at 7 on TNT. All right, the Les Schwab Prep Boys Basketball scoreboard, pretty light schedule. Manson topped Davenport and Orville beat Cascade Christian. In girls play, it was Ephrata over Silverado High School. Orville beat up Cascade Christian, and Pateras edged Liberty Bell. Coming up on the schedule today in girls basketball, it's Chelan visiting Kashmir. Cascade hosts Quincy. Okanagan is at Omak, and the Moses Lake girls are at Ferris at 7. Also today, Aniat faces Odessa at Moses Lake Christian. Lake Roosevelt will take on Mabton. Liberty Bell visits Republic. The 6 o'clock games, Reardon at Brewster. Moses Lake Christian hosts Bridgeport. It's Soap Lake playing at Waterville Mansfield. Riverside Christian is at Wilson Creek, and Manson will host Elmira Cooley Heartline, Simon and Garfunkel. Boys basketball tonight, Ferris visiting Moses Lake at 7. In Caribou Trail League play, it's Kashmir hosting Chelan at 7:15. Quincy boys visit Cascade. Omak will host Okanagan. Earlier in the day, Aniat will take on Odessa at Moses Lake Christian. At 4:30, it's Mabton visiting Lake Roosevelt. The 7:30 games, Bridgeport at Moses Lake Christian. Brewster hosts Reardon. Elmira Cooley Hardline is at Manson, and Soap Lake visits Waterville Mansfield. And there's one wrestling match tonight. Can't forget about Omak and Okanagan at 7 o'clock. And those are just some of the games that people are playing on this 19th day of December. Happy National Hard Candy Day. Today, I'm not a big fan of hard candy. To me, candy is something you put in your mouth and you chew and you swallow, as opposed to hard candy, which just sits there and ruins your taste buds. I mean, let's be honest, you know, hard candy is something that people really like or don't like. Hard candies trace back to ancient Egypt, but the sweetener back then was honey. It wasn't until sugar became available in the Middle Ages, and even that wasn't much. It was hard to get a hold of sugar. Only the richest of rich people could afford sugar to sweeten up their candy. And then, of course, in the mid-19th century, the candy industry exploded because sugar became easy to get, became cheap, and the candy makers had to field day. At one time in this country, in the mid-1800s, there were like 400 companies, separate companies, that did nothing but make candy. I can feel the cavities already. If you enjoy hard candy, enjoy it. Not my cup of tea. Today in history. It was on this date in 1777, George Washington's Continental Army, after losing a battle, but the British didn't pursue them. They said, fine, if you're not going to chase us down, we're going to go get out of here. They go into their winter quarters in Valley Forge, Pennsylvania. It's about 18 miles to the northwest of Philadelphia. 12,000 men, about that many horses. Of the 12,000 men who wintered in Valley Forge on a brutal winter of 77, 78, about 2,000 of his soldiers died of either starvation or disease, and about 2,000 horses also died. Same deal, starvation or disease, but they got through to the spring of 1778, but it's off to camp for the winter. That happened on this date in 1777. 66 years ago today, Elvis Aaron Presley has his draft notice served on him. For the U.S. Army, everybody knew it was coming. He was 22 years old. He was of draft age. It's the late 50s. You're going to go into the Army one way or about it. But Elvis got a 60-day deferment because they had already started pre-production on King Creole, which, by the way, is also probably his best movie. And Elvis went to the draft board in Memphis and said, hey, they're making this movie. They've invested thousands and thousands of dollars. We got a producer and a director and a script and all this stuff. We're going to make the movie. Can I have a 60-day deferment? And they gave him a 60-day deferment. So he didn't actually go into the Army until March of 1958. That's his actual draft card. They misspelled his middle name, too, by the way. 49 years ago today, the 25th Amendment invoked again when Nelson Rockefeller is sworn in as the Vice President of the United States, only the second person appointed to the vice presidency under the 25th Amendment. Of course, the only person before him was his boss, Gerald Ford, who got the big job back in August of '74. Nelson Rockefeller becomes the vice president. 40 years ago today, December 19th, 1983, at the Brazilian national football headquarters in Rio de Janeiro, the original Jules Rimet Trophy, the original World Cup, was stolen. It was made out of solid gold. When they started the World Cup and Jules Rimet had it made out of solid gold, the deal was, and this was in 1930, he said, the first national team to win 3 World Cups gets to keep the trophy forever, and we'll just make another trophy. Well, Brazil in 1970 won their 3rd World Cup, so they got to keep the solid gold Jules Rimet Trophy permanently. They had a new one made, and they had it on display in front of bulletproof glass at their headquarters in Rio de Janeiro. The glass was bulletproof, but all the thieves had to do was take a crowbar to the back of it, rip it open, and make off with it. They never found the thieves, and the trophy is long gone. Authorities believe that they actually, since it was made out of solid gold, that they probably just melted it down for money. The original World Cup trophy disappearing on this date 40 years ago today, and they never found it. And 25 years ago today, President Bill Clinton is impeached by the United States House of Representatives, becoming just the 2nd president in American history to be impeached. Andrew Johnson was the first. He, of course, was acquitted of all charges in the Senate a couple of months later. And finally, some birthdays. I thought I had eyebrows, but good golly. When I was growing up, of course, Leonid Brezhnev was the head of the Soviets. He was the head of the Soviet Union from 1964 until his death in 1982. Second longest tenure ever behind only Joseph Stalin. He ran it for 18 years. Not the most attractive guy in the world, but he loved Scotch whiskey and fast cars, so we'll give him that. Leonid Brezhnev, born in the state in 1906. It's hard to look at. And the great Maurice White. Earth, Wind and Fire, one of the principal songwriters and singers, basically the leader of Earth, Wind and Fire, the great Maurice White, one of my favorite groups growing up, Earth, Wind and Fire. We miss Maurice White. We lost him a number of years ago. He's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. He was born in the state in 1941. But the music lives on. Still to come, an opinion from the Mad Dog himself, Mike Mad Dog Mignotti, and Brad Hawkins. Senator Brad Hawkins dropped by our studios last week to preview the 60-day short legislative session, which begins in Olympia on January 8th. That interview with Jefferson's coming up. And special thanks to our platinum sponsor, Alpine Air. For heat and air, call Alpine Air. Thanks for being platinum sponsors, Alpine Air. We appreciate it. Mike McDonald and Brad Hawkins on the way. You're watching the Tuesday edition of Wake Up in Wenatchee Valley on the NCW Life channel.
Now there are even more reasons to meet at the Pybus Market. Outdoor dining and tastings, the fabulous Farmers Market, Saturday artisans on the concourse, and your favorites all week long. No matter the reason, it's always time to meet at the Pybus Market. Pybus Market, where community meets.
At Confluence Health, our mission is clear: to provide exceptional care for our community. We believe in healthcare that's personal and local because we're just like you, members of this great community.
We are Confluence.
Local care by and for our community.
Local care by and for our community.
Local care by and for our community.
We are Confluence.
Hey, hon, would you run this around to the wash rack?
Oh, okay.
Hey, hon, what happened?
They shrunk the truck.
The all-new midsize Canyon is now available at Sangster Motors.
Snow piles up quickly. Remove it just as quickly with Kubota compact and utility tractors. Rated #1 in durability and owner experience, they're built to take on winter with front and rear mount snow blowers, blades, and rotary sweepers. Get select Kubota tractors for 0 down, 2.99% APR for up to 84 months, plus save up to $800 on qualifying snow attachments. See your local Kubota dealer today.
Hey, this is Mike Mad Dog Mignotti, and everybody's entitled to my opinion. Now, Some years ago, I was listening to the radio, and an ad came on advising me to buy silver now because the Chinese and the Armenians, whoever, I don't know, they were buying up all the silver. So soon, any day now, the price of silver would skyrocket. So I checked the price of an ounce of silver that day, and I wrote it on a sticky note. I dated it, and I stuck the sticky on my wall in my office. Now, 1 year later, I checked the price of silver, and it had actually decreased a few dollars in price. Did I buy any silver? Nah. Will I be sorry someday? Maybe. But probably not. Oh, gosh. This is Mike Mad Dog McNatty, and that's my opinion.
Crown Furniture knows the most important part of a healthy and productive lifestyle is good quality sleep. The Englander Mattress Company is dedicated to manufacturing the best mattresses made in the USA. Englander chooses the finest materials made in the USA with a drive, dedication, and attention to detail, earning them a 99% satisfaction rating. Stop by Crown Furniture today on South Wenatchee Avenue and save up to 35% on select Englander mattresses.
The Clearwater Saloon and Casino has the best Vegas-style games in East Wenatchee. Come enjoy yourself and discover the nightly action. Win big and meet new friends at the Clearwater Saloon and Casino.
Whatever the holidays mean to you, get the most out of it in a new Honda. Whether it's taking the gang to the slopes in an available all-wheel drive Pilot, delivering presents in a rugged Passport, or all in a few toys for yourself in a powerful Ridgeline. Your holiday adventure awaits with a new Honda during Happy Honda Days. Buy online, reserve from select dealers, or visit your local Honda dealer today.
Since 1932, Camp Seneca, nestled on the beautiful shores of Lake Wenatchee, has provided children grades 1 through 12 with the ideal location for kids to learn new skills, have fun, and make friends while creating memories that will last a lifetime. Camp Seneca's rustic log cabins and their staff serve to provide each group a unique summer camp experience. Register for Camp Seneca today, www.campfirencw.org.
This is a short session. It's just 60 days constitutionally. So what's the focus of the legislators' activity?
Well, the main focus of the legislature for this session will be the state budgets. The state budgets on a 2-year cycle, and last legislative session we approved all 3 budgets for the 2-year period. So we approved the operating budget, the transportation budget, and the capital budget. And those budgets are good for the 2023 to 2025 biennium. But in the in-between years, we go back for 60 days, and the main purpose of the session is to make adjustments as needed to those budgets. But we also consider the bills that were introduced last session that did not pass. All of those bills are still technically alive for this upcoming session, and legislators are authorized to introduce new bills. But what I will share is that I believe last session almost 2,500 bills were introduced, yet only 400 were signed into law. So all 2,100 of those bills are still alive, but and with the new ones. But the long story short is most of the bills that get introduced don't make their way all the way to become law, and then with the budget adjustments that need to be made and some other issues that are on the table, there's a lot of work in 60 days.
Right. And that vast number of bills that you mentioned contributed a lot to the last session, being so busy, so packed, going late hours, starting early each morning, and we saw a lot of that playing out before the session.
Yeah, and this session will be no different. In fact, it'll be even more hectic because the way our Constitution is set up with these 105-day and 60-day sessions, yet the size and scope of the state government has grown, the budgets have grown, the complexities of of all these issues still get sort of compressed into 60 days. And when you back out the weekends, even though we actually work the weekends, we're not taking votes and having committees usually on the weekends. So it ends up being 40 weekdays of legislative activity, and it's very intense, 14-hour days plus. But it'll be over before I know it, I'm sure.
Do you go in, Senator, with any particular objectives? Do you have goals you want to meet before 60 days are up?
Usually, although in the 60-day session I sort of moderate my expectations, because if there's anything even remotely controversial, it doesn't really have a good chance of passage. You know, if anything has a little hiccup or whatever, it can't make it, because the whole legislative session is predicated on certain cutoff days, and in the 60-day session, it seems like every week is another major cutoff, and another, you know, brick is falling, and bills are dying, and every week there's a big thing. So usually I have my listening tour in the fall, and that sort of kind of puts me in a good spot to go advocate for issues. And if any legislative ideas came out of that, then, you know, I could put forward those. But, you know, I know that the budgets will be a big issue this year, you know, making adjustments to those. But we also have some kind of bigger items in the mix. You know, we had this capital gains tax that was approved. There's a lot of excess revenue coming in with the capital gains tax, the Climate Commitment Act, cap and trade, carbon tax, however people want to refer to it. Those auction revenues are coming in much higher than anticipated. There's cost escalations in transportation projects all throughout the state, public works projects and other things outside of transportation that have had cost overruns. So there's a lot of things that legislators still want to see get across the finish line, but how we're going to be able to keep the budgets balanced and ensure that those projects get completed, that'll be a big part of the challenge over the 60 days.
What did you hear on your listening tour? I mean, what were people in the 12 telling you they want you to prioritize?
Well, a lot of what you might expect. I mean, a lot of people are really concerned about the increased gas prices. And to be fair, there's a lot of factors associated with what goes into gas prices, whether it's market demand, seasonal, you know, summer versus winter, international conflicts, gas taxes, but also regulatory actions. The Climate Commitment Act and some of the other issues at the time, you know, Governor Inslee, what he mentioned was, and some of the other legislators, is that these programs would only cost sort of pennies on the gallon, but a lot of economists had estimated at the time that was almost 50 cents a gallon extra it could cost, and that is what essentially I believe has played out. And the gas prices this summer are just crushing working families all across Washington state, and it's really not just what you pay at the pump to travel around, but when gas prices increase so drastically, people pay for it at the grocery store, people pay for it when they're getting supplies delivered to their home, home improvement projects, and restaurant bills. I mean, there's just a whole host of impacts associated with high gas prices as the gas prices ripple through the economy. So that's one of the things I heard, but we had good discussions about healthcare and wildfires and chiropractic care and immigrant issues and all sorts of things. I actually split my listening tour. Half of it was in the Chelan-Douglas County area, and then half of it was in the Snohomish and King County areas of the district. That the 12th district, as you probably know and it's reported on, the boundaries have been adjusted quite a bit due to redistricting, and so to pick up population, the 12th district had to go all the way over the Cascade Mountains and into Monroe and part of Snohomish County and a little part of King in the rural areas. And so it's almost like I represent two different districts, though, with this huge Cascade Mountain range in between. And so I split the listening tour between the two, and some of the things I heard were similar and other things were unique to those areas.
How secure do you think is transportation funding for things like Confluence Parkway? You mentioned this is a session when budgets may be tinkered with, or there may be some adjustments or amendments made to dollar amounts that are already set aside. So when we talk about Confluence Parkway, it's a big subject of discussion here. How secure is state funding?
Yeah, I believe the current state funding is secure. But I don't want to speak for City of Wenatchee, but I know that they're likely anticipating some significant cost escalations with Confluence Parkway, which are not dissimilar to what the state of Washington for its projects or other communities are experiencing for their projects. And so one of the challenges with our transportation system is handling the cost escalations. But then we also have this extra Climate Commitment Act auction revenue, which may be able to be used to sort of moderate some of those cost escalations, although there's rules on those revenues that they have to be used for emission reduction purposes and things. But it is going to be a big topic of discussion. And what is interesting is in 2022, the state of Washington approved this Move Ahead Washington transportation package. And every 6 to 8 years, the state updates these transportation plans, and this particular one is a 16-year plan. So what I worked hard on with Mayor Kuntz and other advocates was securing the Confluence Parkway funding, but also in a schedule that was advantageous to the City of Wenatchee. So the last legislative session, we were successful in getting Confluence Parkway scheduled, and the money is actually, I think is $85 million, is scheduled to be appropriated over the next 6 years, over the next 3 transportation budget cycles. But if you have a project that's in year 10 to 16 of that Move Ahead Washington transportation plan, I'd be nervous. But there is a real focus by the Transportation Committee to try to honor the commitments of a plan like that has been negotiated in good faith. And so we need to make sure all of those projects get across the finish line.
Moving into again, a budget review kind of period in this session, you've said you want more of the operating budget funding to be kept kind of in a reserve. The state has a budget stabilization fund, the rainy day fund. I think it ended 2022 with about $334 million still in pocket. You'd like to see that enhanced, I guess.
Absolutely. And when you consider a nearly $70 billion 2-year budget, the reserves that the state of Washington holds is not as strong of a cash position as what I would like.
It's a smaller percentage of the whole.
Yes, and then there's been other programs and other reserve accounts that have essentially been raided in the past by budget writers too. And it's a big debate. And again, to try to be fair, because I have really good friends who are Democrats that want to do what's best for the state of Washington but have a different opinion. They might say, well, Brad, we can't hold back too much because then we have dollars that we could invest in kids and education, these other things that we're just kind of holding in reserves, and we need to get those dollars to work for the people of the state of Washington. So I guess what I'm saying is good people can disagree on this, but I would much rather prefer that the state of Washington have a much healthier reserve account. And last legislative session, there's 3 state budgets. So last legislative session, I voted for the capital budget and the transportation budget, but I voted against the operating budget. And one of the reasons was that I feel like we're sort of spending to the edge. And our revenues for our operating budget are mostly business taxes and sales taxes. Now there's real estate taxes, we get this new capital gains tax, and other fees and things that flow into the operating budget, a small portion of the state property tax, for example. But most of our $70 billion operating budget is predicated on the success of businesses and people's spending. And if those revenues dip and we've spent to the edge, then I think we're in real trouble. And the state revenue is projected to be slightly up for over what was projected, about $200 million to the positive. Now again, it's a $70 billion budget, so $200 million in the positive is a good thing, at least it's not in the negative. But the revenue forecast shows a significant decrease in the rate of growth of our economy. And if the national economic impacts are such over the next 2 or 4 years, if state revenue flattens or decreases and we don't have enough in reserves, then we're looking at some major cutbacks.
You want to guard against that hazard?
I want to guard against that but it's interesting because a lot of the programs like the capital gains tax, it was actually set up to fund expanded child care. And so I think strategically some of the advocates for the capital gains tax knew that if the state Supreme Court strikes this down or if voters revolt against it or whatever, then it's still going to be difficult to reduce those programs that are built into the budget. Same with the Climate Commitment Act. The cap and trade revenues, a lot of those now are going to be built into the budgets and the spending. So if something like that were to eventually go away, well, so does the revenue, and you need to make those hard decisions. So long story short, yes, I'd rather save more and kind of weather the ups and downs. You know, our state economy, largely because it's a sales tax dependent economy, you know, has ups and downs. And if you have more in a cash reserves, then you're able to sort of smooth out those peaks and those valleys of the revenue.
Well, Brad, you've been very closely watching education most of your career. You're a former Eastmont School Board member. You're currently on higher ed and the early learning and K through 12 committees. You're the ranking member of the early learning committee. And last year we saw Eastmont School District try to pass about a $185 million bond measure. It got a majority, 51% or so. Did not get the supermajority that it needed, 60%, to pass a new bond. The district has said they'll try to come back with a modified proposal for the voters this year. Wenatchee School District is likely to do something similar. You've also said you wouldn't support a simple majority for bond approval, wouldn't support changing the law to allow that. Why is that?
Well, it's a good question, and we did have a state Supreme Court case related to school construction where the state Supreme Court basically upheld that school facilities are a shared responsibility between the state and school districts.
And to be clear, when we vote for bonds, we're voting for the construction generally of school facilities, and when we vote for levies, we're voting for operations.
Yeah, one way I like to say it is levies are for learning and bonds are for buildings. And it's confusing to voters because they both are ballot measures and they both involve people's property taxes, but they have different thresholds, and I think for good reason. So I do support a simple majority for school levies. Those are for supplementing school operating costs. They're short-term tax authorizations, and they're subject to being reauthorized, whereas the bonds are long-term tax commitments by communities that encumber those residents and future residents of those communities over several years, sometimes multiple decades or maybe 25 years. So I think it warrants a higher threshold for approval. And I know that sometimes school districts will argue that the reason their school bond proposals aren't being approved is simply because of this higher threshold. But I would argue that that's likely not the case. Sometimes the school districts ask for too much. Sometimes their communications aren't effective. Sometimes there's turmoil in their districts unrelated to their bond facility proposals that sort of compromise the efforts in the community to get things passed. So there are different reasons, and for example, with Eastmont, you know, I don't necessarily want to speak to every instance, but I know they asked for a lot, and I know they did that pretty quickly, and it was a lot of information pretty soon, and now they're coming back saying, well, we heard your message, and now we've refined our proposal, and here's what it is. And sometimes school districts need to go through that process a couple times, but I will tell you, it's not impossible to pass a school bond at 60%. And the reason I know is because when I was the school board president at Eastmont, believe it was 2010, we did successfully pass a school bond at 60% on a general election ballot in November and during a recession. So if you have the right communications and the board is unified and the community is behind you, and you put in the work and you make the case, then yes, you can get those approved. You don't have to try 4 or 5 times. You can do it on the first time. Now, I know that Cascade School District in Leavenworth also got a school bond approved. They were the Eastmont and Cascade were probably the 2 most recent school districts in our area. But yes, some school districts have struggled. But the state does have grant programs in place to assist school districts with their facilities, even the school districts that don't get their bonds approved. And and maybe those can be beefed up a little bit, okay? But some of the school districts that do have their communities approve their bonds, they are eligible to receive matching funds from the state school construction assistance program. So we do a lot to assist school districts, both on the operation side and on the capital side. And I anticipate, that'll all be on the table again this session. On the operation side, I will tell you the funding for school districts has significantly increased. 10 years ago, it was about $8,700 per student per year. Now, with local funding and federal funding and state funding, it's approximately $17,200 per student per year. Yet the performance of the school districts are struggling too. I think just over 50% of students are achieving English language arts standards across grade levels. And I think for math, it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 39% for math. So we are funding school districts significantly more. School districts are greatly expanding their scope of services that they're providing. And I would argue actually that academics is becoming less of a priority for our school system because our schools are trying to be the deliverer of all services to kids. And I know it's a tough discussion. We probably don't have time to get into all that today, but just because you have children in your school system that have certain needs, that doesn't mean that the school district needs to be the service provider to meet all those needs. Because if that's the case, we'll never have enough money to fully fund education. We can take the entire $70 billion operating budget and dump it completely on this table out to just fund education, and it wouldn't be enough if the scope of services for our school districts continues to expand. Back in 2015, I think the state Supreme Court said we were fully funding education with the McClear decision, yet school districts have asked for more in voter-approved levies. They've asked for more in state funds. They've received it. Yet they still argue it's not enough, and part of it is because of society's expectations that we're putting on the school system to do so much more than beyond their fundamental responsibility as academic institutions.
Let me ask you one more question. Brad, you've often been proud that the 12th district was the largest geographic district. That has since changed a little bit. The 7th district right next door to us is vast, covers a large territory. And your district, again, as you said, has been sort of pushed into a new shape where you're representing more of Snohomish and King counties, which you didn't previously represent. And your district just barely includes your neighborhood where you live. I have to point this out. So, and the whole process was a little bit fraught, and it's under some litigation in some areas. What are your thoughts on how that process was carried out?
I think it went terribly bad. I don't think there was a lot of transparency. The bipartisan redistricting commission had laid out like certain draft maps and proposals, and I looked at all of those, and a lot of the communities in Chelan and Douglas counties, a lot of the entities provided comments and kind of did everything that the redistricting commission asked for, and then they ended up in the final hour, literally, coming up with something completely different. And it really, the most disappointing part of the statewide redistricting to me was how it split up what I would consider communities of interest, Chelan and Douglas counties, and in particular how it kind of carved into the Wenatchee Valley area, where the city of East Wenatchee and Chelan County are in the 12th, but The rest of East Wenatchee, sort of in the county, but with an East Wenatchee address, and beyond in Douglas County are
most of Douglas is
the
now in the 7th
yeah.
district. Yeah.
And when you think about it, we have the Chelan-Douglas Land Trust, the Chelan-Douglas Health District, the Chelan-Douglas Regional Port Authority, and the Wenatchee Valley Chamber of Commerce, and all of these entities that have sort of designed themselves around the Wenatchee Valley as one community. And so that really disappointed me. But I kind of knew that the 12th district was likely going to change. I didn't anticipate it to be that drastic, but what had happened in the redistricting is every 10 years, the state goes through this process of collecting the census data and rebalancing the legislative districts. And if we were to spread out the map of Washington State on this table, there's actually 49 different legislative districts, but they're all different shapes and sizes geographically, like puzzle pieces, but they're supposed to balance population, so that when I take a vote representing the people of the 12th, or Senator Short takes a vote representing the people of the 7th, we're all representing the same number of constituents. That's the idea. And the population reports were increasing greatly in the Western Washington side of the state, but the Central and Eastern Washington portion of the state was sort of underpopulated. And so I knew that the Eastern and Central Washington legislative districts needed to expand geographically to pick up population. And the Western Washington legislative districts would sort of condense a little bit. And when you look at the 12th district and maybe the 13th, there's only a couple legislative districts that sort of border the Cascades. We consider ourselves Central Washington, but we're basically right up against the Cascades, you know, and so then we got nudged over as a 12. But you have to get nudged way over to pick up population, because as you go along Highway 2, you know, you picked up Gold Bar and Sultan, but you have to almost get to Monroe to really pick up a lot of population. But I've been working really closely the last couple of years with the Highway 2 communities and trips to Monroe, and then also a small portion of rural King County, meeting with those folks too.
Do you find that the western citizenry areas, the population areas that you represent over there, are their interests distinctly different from those of Wenatchee, East Wenatchee, Chelan?
Not necessarily. I mean, obviously there's less agriculture and maybe less wildfire concerns and things like that, but a lot of the issues really, when you think about, for example, agriculture and wildfire, those are issues of statewide importance too. One of the major challenges we have with the newly configured 12th district is the vast scope of the transportation needs in the area. And frankly, I knew that once we got redistricted, and based on my initial research with those communities. And that's one of the reasons I went so all in on Confluence Parkway and trying to secure that funding in 2022, because once we get into the newly configured district, sort of the Wenatchee Valley is no longer the epicenter of the district. You have to kind of do your best to represent everybody, which we've always tried to do, but that also means when it comes, for example, to transportation, that there's some major projects that need to get funded over there. So the people of Monroe talked to me about finishing the State Route 522 project, which is estimated to cost now $260 million. I worked with the community of North Bend to get an interchange supported near I-90 and Highway 18, if you've driven out that way. And we're also working to expand and widen Highway 18, which is, for those of folks who travel to Tacoma, they will see all the trees being taken down. The highway's going to be widened. That's almost a $500 million project. And then Highway 2. What's been interesting about Highway 2 between, say, Leavenworth and Monroe is over time the state population over several decades has grown considerably, yet there have been little to no capacity improvements or safety improvements made to Highway 2. Now there are some geographical constraints on that Stevens Pass Highway 2, but there is a lot of work that needs to be done. When I-90 Snoqualmie Pass closes down, there are miles and miles of backups on Highway 2 on holidays or weekends, or even snowing and snow skiing and snowboarding days, it backs up for miles and miles. And that's actually my community right now, so my district. So a lot of the people from Sultan are coming to me asking for Highway 2 improvements, and the city of Sultan, I've worked closely with them. They've identified a whole series of roundabouts and widening and replacing bridges, but that's going to be hundreds of millions of dollars too. And Highway 2 has sort of been neglected for several decades, and now, you know, it's my district, so I'm going to do my best, but I feel like we have lots and lots of work to do, and frankly, probably $1 billion worth of transportation improvements over the next couple decades that need to be made. So it's a big deal. So when you think about it, the districts in some ways are similar, and other ways they're very different. And I'm really thankful to get this secured for Confluence Parkway, because future transportation funding may need to be directed to other areas of the district.
Well, again, we know you won't be able to solve all these things in 60 days, but we'll be watching and wishing you luck. So.
Oh, thank you, Jefferson.
Senator Brad Hawkins with the 12th District, thanks a lot for being here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Really appreciate
it. Yeah, thanks.
You're watching the NCW Live channel.
Ready to record?
Oh, you know what? We got to get Senator Hawkins doing his, you're watching NCW.
Global Car Care has the best customer service in the Valley. From the moment you walk in the door, their goal is to help you stay on the road, so you can keep doing what's important to you. Global Car Care certified ASE mechanics stand behind your automotive repairs.
Happy fall, Wenatchee Valley. Collins Fashions has your fall fashion necessities. Cozy sweaters, jackets, vests, and coats. Jeans and skinny, slim, regular, and boot cut from Jag, Cut, French dressing, and Liverpool. Sparkly blazers and tops for holiday special occasions. Comfy PJ salvage and tribal. Sleepwear and robes make great gifts. Brighton has designed gorgeous olive and chili pepper handbags. New Apple Watch bands are in and will not last long. Come see us at Collins, where fun meets fashion in downtown Wenatchee.
Tiki Hawaiian Barbecue, family owned and operated on North Wenatchee Avenue, right next to Hooked on Toys. Tiki Hawaiian Barbecue uses only fresh ingredients, handcrafted with love, including authentic Hawaiian barbecue and Japanese-style ramen noodle soups. And the bubble teas will keep you coming back for more. Enjoy the culinary tour of the Pacific Rim with Hawaiian barbecue lunches and combo plate classics, as well as ramen noodle soups. Tiki Hawaiian Barbecue. Enjoy their comfort food like you're one of the family.
Winter is a great time to trade in your current hot tub. Turn your old hot tub into money with Blue Lagoon Pool & Spa's trade-in program. You can save $500 to $1,000 off of any new artesian spa, or take advantage of a free Bluetooth music experience. Blue Lagoon Pool & Spa recommends draining your hot tub every 3 months. Ask us about our drain and refill special. Stop on by Blue Lagoon Pool & Spa today.
What you see behind me is a live shot of nothing, because it's cloudy, it's foggy, it's kind of a light rain snow mix. We are right at the freezing mark, 32 degrees. The rain snow mix that we're getting here in the Wenatchee Valley should switch over to all rain by about 11 or noon or so. Then it'll pretty much be all done with that. I'm going to give you your complete forecast details. And there is the slightest chance, don't bet on it, but there's the slightest chance of maybe a snowflake on Christmas Day, next Monday. But they updated a slide that we showed you earlier today, and this is the latest that we have from the National Weather Service. There is some wintry precipitation, as you might imagine, over the Cascade Passes. Right now, Blewett looks really dicey. Traction tires are advised on the big three, Blewett, Stevens, and Snoqualmie, but they're concerned about isolated pockets of freezing rain where you see the pink circle, which, wouldn't you know, is Stevens, Snoqualmie, and Blewett Pass. So there is some cold air trapped at the surface. The rain, there's actually some pretty mild and wet air going over the top of the cold air on the surface of the passes, and so it falls as rain, then it freezes and lands as freezing rain. So it could get really pretty nasty there for a while. If you plan on traveling over the mountain passes, you're better off probably to wait till the early afternoon hours. I think we'll probably be fine by now. And there's no real freezing rain anticipated here in the Wenatchee Valley. From the National Weather Service, rain until about 1:32 or so. Snow level right now is at 2,600 feet, but it's going to go to above pass level. It's going to be at 4,300 feet this afternoon. That's why I think it's a good idea to wait if you have to drive over the mountain passes. We'll top off at about 38. Mostly cloudy, 33 for the overnight low tonight. Patchy fog on Wednesday. Outside of that, going to see some sunshine. Very mild. A high near 41. That's well above normal. Wednesday night, clouds are back. 36 for the overnight low. 39, 40 or so with lots of clouds on Thursday into Christmas weekend. Cloudy with some light rain possible on Friday. Lots of sunshine Saturday and Sunday. Overnight temperatures getting cold, though, in the weekend. And we'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Coast to coast Holly Jolly journey made even jollier thanks to Jeff Foxworthy.
Jeff, thank you so
Merry
much.
Christmas! And see how ornaments that shine around the world are also special thank you gifts in North Carolina.
This is beautiful.